to go.
Okay, and we're live. Hey guys, this is Jan from DoraHacks, and welcome to the workshop of the Grant Factory Hackathon presented by Taiko. Today is the 11th workshop session, and we have two great presentations today, which is about Taiko Partnerships, all you need to know, and also about Taiko Gwyneth. Before we start, let me give you some background on this hackathon. As the largest Web3 multi-chain developer incentive platforms, it's an honor for DoraHacks to support this hackathon and support Taiko. We're looking forward to all the incredible projects building on top of Taiko, and very happy to have here today DaniK, Joaquin, and Joran from Taiko Labs. And for the audience, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section on Binance Live or YouTube. Without further ado, let's welcome them, and I would pass it over to Joran.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you very much, DoraHacks team. There's lots of folks working behind the scenes that are helping make this happen. So thank you all to you guys as well. I'm super excited for the talks today. We're coming to the end of our workshop and talk series. There will probably be one more special talk. I'm going to give a workshop on how to actually submit your grants, but this is the official end to the regularly scheduled programming that we have. But yeah, I want to give you guys another little bit of a rundown of how things are going to go as we come towards the end. But we still have a few weeks, so there's a lot of time, relatively speaking, to get some projects in, to even start new projects now and get those grants polished and ready. The idea behind the Grant Factory is to build and inspire people to build long-term businesses on the Taiko ecosystem. And so we're looking for projects that are willing to deploy on Taiko for mainnet, and then submit a grant proposal detailing what your goals are for like 2, 4, 6 months down the line. So not only can you win some initial hackathon prize funding, but you can also unlock some funding for your roadmap down the line as you build out your project. And so we wanted to really align our incentives there to encourage these new builders, encourage these entrepreneurs to launch their new projects and get that support that you need. And that's also what the Grant Factory is about, giving you the technical support, but also giving you some entrepreneurial insight. We had some great talks on how we came about as a project from the founders, as well as grant writing support, which we had some great talks about that as well. And I did one more talk actually coming. But without further delay, I'm going to pass it over to DaniK, who's from the Taiko Gwyneth team. We had just last week Cecilia come and give us a very in-depth look at what based block building looks like in the future. DaniK's going to give us maybe a little bit more of a higher view of what Taiko Gwyneth is, so that we can really wrap our heads around that new technology that's coming down the pipeline. Passing over to you, DaniK.
Hey guys, thanks for having me first. I'm DaniK. I'm at Taiko since 2023 and from January, and I was a protocol developer at Taiko. But when we shipped mainnet, I was transitioned into this Gwyneth initiative, which I'm going to talk about very soon. Shall we just jump into it?
Yeah.
Joaquin is doing the. Okay, then I'll just.
Yeah, you can jump in. We're gonna disappear off your screen in a second. We're gonna go backstage and just sit back and enjoy.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So what is Gwyneth, right? What is Taiko Gwyneth? In order to understand what is Gwyneth or what we are building, I would like to give you a recap why Taiko Gwyneth exists, and we need to zoom out a little bit and go back into the past. So I'm going to give you some history lessons about Ethereum. So here you can see some stats, and the stats follow some memes, but first the stats, right? What we see here is a network utilization. So we can see that before EIP 1559, we saw approximately like 100% of network utilization, which would mean that the blocks are full. This drop to 50% should not mislead you. This also means that we are full, the network is full. Just the IP5059 math means that we target the physical gas limit, which is 30 million gas per block. And now we are targeting 15 million gas per block on average. If we are above that, the base fee increases. If we below that, the base fee decreases. So this is why here in the chart, 50% means full network utilization. So you can see that during the years, so from now, it's like for 5-6 years from now, in the past, the Ethereum blocks are almost always full, which means we need to scale the network. Otherwise, what we experience, right? We experience network congestion, and we also so network congestion is when you have an inclusion delay. You submit your transaction, and it gets included in like minutes later. And what we also experience is the high gas fees. Right? So we have to pay insane amount of transaction fees. So what did Ethereum do in order to mitigate this? First, they wanted to go for the sharding, so-called sharding concept. You can see on the left. So sharding is originating from database management, and it actually refers to a method of breaking up a large part of something into smaller chunks. And in Ethereum's vision, it would have meant to be 64 shards, and the coordination would have happened in a consensus. But instead, the roadmap has changed, and we turn towards the rollup-centric roadmap, and we introduced new transaction types, the blob carrying transactions, and these are like regular transactions, except they are pretty big, and it can be much cheaper than the similar amount of call data. So blob is not accessible to the execution. It resides in the consensus and also prunes after 2 weeks. So this is why it can be cheaper. And this is where layer 2s putting their data, and this is where you can see, oh, blob is full, blob is not full, how much each rollup paid for the blobs. This is where we are now. This is when you can see now in the statistics. So fast forward to present. Right, what we experience, what we can see. Okay, you can see in the top right corner, the scaling factor is 26.5x, which means we were able to scale Ethereum, right? 26-fold. You can see in the top 3, yesterday was Base, XI, and 3 on Arbitrum. It's a gaming, for gaming, and Taiko is the top 3. This is cool, right? We can say yes until it isn't. So what happens? What comes with that? So according to the block, every 19 days there is a new layer 2, which means the ecosystem is fragmented in any way is possible. So liquidity, community, application, the look and feel of them, which means that each of the chains and the block explorers and everything can differ. So the user and dev experience is also suffering. You have to switch RPCs, you have to configure it differently, you have to interact with the chain differently, and also atomic interoperability as synchronous composability basically non-existent, because nobody is incentivized to build blocks for Taiko, Scroll, Arbitrum, Optimism together, and then also not keep in mind that they have to be proven at the same time. So OP has a 7 days proving window, etc. So basically, in this way, there's not possible to synchronously composable. What synchronously composable means, I'll get to the point with the real world example. But with the meme, it's like that. We can basically exchange the before the meme, the high gas fees to high fragmentation ratio, right? Okay, so here comes Gwyneth, and how Gwyneth does that, right? Okay, so high level overview of Taiko Gwyneth is how you can imagine the design of these chains. We call the chains, we call the network with these blockchains, booster rollups, and you can see these booster rollups as coprocessors with resources, for example, memory or storage or just computation. It depends on if you want to use it stateful or stateless way. But so these are more chains, but hopefully it still can look like a single chain for users. And you can also use them, as previously mentioned, in different modes like stateful or stateless. So let's see. Stateless mode is like a coprocessor mode. So booster rollup allows all L1 smart contracts that the work is offloaded to L2 and keeping the state all on L1. The only work required on L1 is verifying the ZK proof and applying the final state back to the L1 smart contracts. The stateful mode is pretty similar, but in this mode, it doesn't really necessary to write back to L1 because it's up to developers or ecosystem participants how they wanna use it. So what is best or more convenient? Obviously, the latter has advantages of being cheaper and by default synchronously composable. It can be synchronously composable with L1 too, but with a caveat, we get into the point. And also, I will try to clear the cloud what synchronous composability means or what's the use case. But okay, let's see some designs. Okay, first, synchronously composable. Let's define synchronously composable. So allow synchronous composable calls to happen either between a specific L2 and L1 or between different L2s, and it is happening atomically within the same block. So within the same block, within the same span of the block on an L1 block, you can interact with an L1A, L2A, L2B, L23 block, for example, for like swapping or arbitrage opportunity, and you can do that across multiple L2s within one L1 block. That's in practice what it means. But I also at the end of the presentation, I'm giving you an example of it. So let's see the designs, what we have now. Sorry. So first we have single L2, right? And I'm trying to unfold how Taiko Gwyneth is trying to solve these aforementioned problems. So we have single L1, and then if we want to scale it, single L2, we either need to sacrifice something about like hardware requirements. So for example, we can fine tune the hardware requirements and accept more transactions and not just limiting the block size to 30 million, but let's say 100 millions. But then you have to tune up your hardware requirements too. So this is why, like with a single L2, you cannot really scale single L1. Otherwise, you have to sacrifice something. But then you're basically at the same place where you were. So this is where the multiple L2s came in. This is where we are basically at now. So we have different L2 solutions: Taiko, Polygon, Arbitrum, etc. Whatever. We have seen that the liquidity is pretty much fragmented. Okay, the next evolution of this is single L1, and then we are getting closer. So we are getting closer. It's something similar to Polygon layer, but it's you have a unified liquidity bridge smart contract, and it's still asynchronous. Bridges doesn't have to go through L1 anymore for cross-chain transactions, but it's still asynchronous. So still have to go through L2 storage routes, and it takes more time, even interblock transactions, and not within one atomic block, just how I described previously, what synchronous composability could mean. Okay, so this is almost the same design, but with synchronous composability, which means that the precondition is we need to have fast, or not really fast, but real-time proofs. So we don't need to go through state routes anymore and proving them on Merkle trees on chain, because the execution is happening in parallel and proving is posted on chain. This is great, and it's almost an end game like scenario. And I have to emphasize that we need to have this fast and real-time proving and shared execution across all L2s. It's a design we are aiming to use to ourselves with Gwyneth, with some caveats, and this architecture is also considered to be valid among different competitors. So I think Polygon AgroLayer, for example, is also trying to be there, not necessarily async, but they want to be sync with real-time proofs and elastic chain and what else? They have super chains from OPE. They are trying to use this kind of approach, but it has some issues. For example, what's the problems? I stole these lines from our CTO, Brecht's presentation, but I will give you the TLDR what these lines mean. So Ops are fragmented means that basically an L2 starts as an empty chain. Then it needs to deploy dApps, needs to build its own ecosystem. It puts an overhead on everyone, developers, BD, right? Dependency on unified bridge functionality. It means that you are up to the mercy of bridge providers, while in booster design, there is no traditional bridges. Everything resides in DB, and storing funds happens in the same smart contract instance, and it would be stored on L1 too. No convenient access to L1. With booster rollups, we have immediate L1 read access, and for now, and specific write access, because our execution is happening inside an L1 execution client. Currently, we are building on the top of Reth execution extensions design, and we have low latency communications to every DB. The last is just obvious, so we don't have a standard how we can propose to multiple blocks in the same time. So what's the Gwyneth design? So here we can see that the smart contracts deployed on L1, for example, Uniswap smart contract, Uniswap pool smart contract, is the same address is exactly the same on L2. So we exactly mirroring the L1 state on the deployed L2. And so that you can use L2 as an execution only, or you can also say that, okay, specific pools are sitting on L2s only. With this way, we can immediately bootstrap our network, because if a pool is available on L1 and immediately available on L2, then it can happen that you outsource the execution to L2 and then rewrite the state back to L1. In order to be synchronously composable with L1, you need to add a new EIP. So we have to introduce a new EIP, which is possible and not happening anytime soon. Or you have to support the so-called booster functionality on L1, meaning that, for example, a smart contract has a function that says, okay, write new state. And then with the booster rollups, a booster rollup can write a new state. So basically, L2, the booster rollup L2, is executing something on the layer 2. It calculates the new state and then writes it back immediately to L1. So there is one L1 cost of writing the storage, and then L2 execution cost. We can also use it with statefully, and I'm going to show you an example how we envision. So what's the use case for it? So with synchronous composability, imagine an arbitrage opportunity. So for example, the green one, the green smart contract is a pool, USDC WETH pool. This purple one is a WETH WBTC pool, and the orange one is a WBTC USDT pool. And you can see there is an arbitrage opportunity if you wrap your USDC first to WETH, 26 WETH, then wrap it to or exchange it for one WBTC and exchange it back to USDT. You gained $100, right? And you can do that within these rollups with Xcall, like cross-chain call operations in the same block, in the same L1 block, in the same span of an L1 block, in the lifetime of one L1 block. So basically that means in practice this synchronous composability. So this is just an example. And okay, yeah, that was it. I sorry for not going into the details of like the implementation and how the smart contracts would look like, but I thought that maybe a visual representation is better. And for someone who wants to see the ETH research posts, these two are written by our CTO Brecht, and just give it a read if you can. That was it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny. Very exciting and interesting stuff. I'm excited for Gwyneth. Yeah, there's one question from the audience that I'm going to ask you. But before that, I want to ask you if maybe you have a bit of a timeline? Are you able to share any details about like where Taiko Gwyneth is in like the research and development kind of phase? Like when will people be able to get their hands dirty with what you guys are building?
I see. We are planning to launch our DevNet, the first DevNet, around DevCon, but it's no promise, right? So it's not guaranteed we can make it in time. Obviously, deadlines come and go, right? So we are planning to launch it or anytime soon. It's not going to be like a public testnet where you can hammer our endpoints, but developers can get to know the informations, what are our endpoints, and can experience the chain, and hopefully we can demo this synchronous composability or synchronous composability-ish functionality. We are not there yet. In terms of like the main product, the mainnet, deadlines come and go. That's all I can say. I think somewhere next year. Hopefully we all aligned and somewhere next year, and I don't think later than that. But exactly what time?
Of course, it's hard to say for sure. But I think even like a DevNet at DevCon is quite soon and exciting. And even if like it means launching next year, I mean that in crypto time it might seem like a long time, but in real time it's fairly close. And that is in a perfect world. Of course, there may be some snags along the way, but I'm looking forward to being able to see this in action, and coupled with the piece where we're going to have pre-confirmations really soon, that it just like amplifies the applicability to what Taiko Gwyneth can bring to the table, and having sub-second block times on L2s and cross-chain synchronous composability. This sounds like an amazing new paradigm that we're heading towards, all these pieces working together. So that's awesome. So yeah, one of the questions here, and I think you did touch on it, but maybe if you can like kind of explicitly give some of the similarities and or differences between what Taiko Gwyneth is bringing and something in comparison to like the OP stack.
I see. Okay, I'm trying to. So definitely one I knew right away is the bootstrapping of the ecosystem. So if you deploy an L2, you already have smart contracts deployed on your L2 because you inherit the DB, you inherit the storage from L1. So 0x123 smart contract can have and will have the same content, same smart contract deployed, for example, on layer 2A, layer 2B, layer 2C if they are shooted up. While the super chains or the other chains that like trying to deploy a chain, which is like definitely, I think, composable, synchronously composable across the stack, and they do it like similarly, but the way how they can bootstrap the chain is, I think, that's one of the key differences. What else? I think, they have to depend on a third party, or not third party, but their native bridges, while in Gwyneth we don't have the traditional bridge functionality. So everything happens in the execution engine, in the XX part, and the proving is real time. So we don't need these so-called traditional bridges. And also, also is the access to L1. I don't exactly know their design by heart, but I assume they don't really have L1 access or low latency L1 read access, but definitely not L1 write access. This is something which the base stack, the base rollup stack is friendly with. That's it.
Cool. Yeah, I think there are some similarities, but also some very key differences, like you pointed out. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's another question from wants to comment about when pre-confirmations, And I don't know if you have any insight in this because you're working on Gwyneth, but yeah, you probably actually do have some insight in this. But I could say from what I know is that we have already pre-confirmations working on a DevNet, an internal DevNet. We're working towards getting a public test net up running fairly soon, soon TM. But I would say look towards DevCon for some more information about what we're building and when, like, the timeline for it. But it's something that's happening in parallel to what the Taiko Gwyneth team is building. And yeah, more information soon. Do you have any more insight you wanted to add to that, Danny?
I think you summed it up pretty properly. So I think pre-confirmations and Gwyneth are not like blocking each other. So they are in parallel development. I'm not in charge of that, but I know that it's coming pretty soon. So the new fork, which is already deployed but not activated, also on testnet and mainnet, has pre-confirmation support. So it's coming very soon, I would say. Yeah, watch out for more news from the channels, from the social channels.
Yeah. Great stuff. Okay, so I had a couple questions here just to understand a little bit better. So when you're deploying an L2, you're going to inherit the DB from L1. So you're going to bootstrap the ecosystem. What happens after that when new contracts are deployed to L1? Are they instantly also deployed to all the L2s? And can you maybe like talk about how that scales, like with many L2s, like deploying that same contract to many instances? I don't know. Maybe I'm like going down a rabbit trail, but does that make sense? Like,
yeah, makes sense. So I would say the deployment happens only once. So we're mirroring the DB. So everything resides in a DB, right? At the end of the day, this data is sitting in a database, and the DB is mirrored. So if you deploy once, then that smart contract, for example, is accessible on L2 for execution too. So it happens automatically.
Got you. Okay, so maybe then, maybe then it's worth reiterating that in order to have this synchronous composability, these are like special nodes that have been upgraded to support L1 as well as L2. Is that accurate?
I would say these are by default L1 nodes, which are supporting L2. So the other way around.
Yeah, so they're L1 nodes that have been upgraded to support this booster roll
opted in. I would say this is opted in to be L2 builders too.
Got it. And in that way.
Sorry, John, for interrupting. So by default, it's not like all the builders or all the L1 validators are opted in L2 builders too. No, it's not going to happen. So it's also not going to happen that all the blocks and all during the L1 blocks period, they will be synchronous to composable, because each validator or block builder has one slot, right, at a time. So that builder has to be either the block has to be pre-confirmed, or the builder has to be opted in to be an L2 builder. So that's
okay. And so in that way, that's how we achieve the synchronous composability, because the L1 node that has opted into the L2 support, they already have the copy of the blockchain, or the database from L1. So that's how they're able to access all of this data.
Correct. Database to L1, database to different or multiple L2s, or just, let's say it's also possible that the node is only have the L1 node, and let's say 2 out of the 3 L2 nodes. It's possible. They can also do this synchronous composable example, for example. It's not necessarily that if we have, for example, if we have 100 chains, 100 booster rollups, it's not necessarily that each node is supporting all the 100. They can be selective and say, okay, we're just supporting the 1 and 2. The others are supporting 3 and 4, blah, blah, blah. So,
got you. Okay, yeah, that was my second question. Is there a limit to kind of how many nodes a particular L1 can opt into?
Arbitrary.
Arbitrary. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Obviously, it comes with hardware with hardware requirements, increasing
Right.
hardware requirements. So if you want to support more, then you need more resources.
Makes sense. And can there be unique contracts? Like, can you deploy a contract on L2 that doesn't necessarily exist on other L2s or the L1? Like, would that make sense in this model?
I would think so with smart wallets. It makes sense. But also, I would say we are not there yet to just
Okay.
in the research in the dev that. But yeah, there can be some legitimacy doing that.
Okay, so there will be some, I guess, how would you say it? Yeah, some uniqueness, some like there would be like teams that might want to build an L2 in a particular way that has different a different feel or a different flavor, if you will, from the other L2s, but are still connected through Taiko Gwyneth's booster rollup design.
I think it's definitely doable, and we will see when we are there and how the ecosystem, how devs want to use those. Maybe the stateful or statelessness can be switched on, switched off. I don't know, or used in parallel. We just don't know it yet. What would be the more practical or how to
do
that.
That is exciting to think about, and of course, I'm like already way farther down the line trying to think of where this is going. But of course, time will tell, and it makes sense. Some more questions coming in from wants to comment. He's asking, is the bytecode copied to the L2?
A bytecode resides in a DB. Sure, yeah, the bytecode is deployed. Yeah, the bytecode is copied over. So everything is copied, like it's a mirrored state, like it's a copy of the L1. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Does the rate of opt-in for a chain affect the L2's block time or liveness?
It also depends on the pre-confirmations we have. So we need to experience with that too. So we are not right now with pre-confirmations. We will not be bound to have inclusion delays, long inclusion delays. But we need to see it in practice how it works, because Gwyneth by default will be pre-confirmed chain. So this is something we need to experience with when pre-confirmation is coming to Taiko's BCR protocol. So I don't know yet.
Yeah, makes sense. This last question here, I think, is similar to the one I asked previously, but can an L2 have a different new opcodes built into it?
It will have. For example, this Xcall options. So by default, we have these Xcall options you can see, and this is how we tell the EVM that, okay, this is Xcall, so a cross-chain call. So I want to call in from L2.1 to L2.2. So this will be by default the first precompile, which will be different.
Great. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to think about and to talk about this new paradigm that you guys are building. I don't see any more questions coming in from the comment section, and you answered mine perfectly. So yeah, I think we're going to move on from this section, but I just wanted to thank you so much, Danny, for being here and letting us take a little peek into the Taiko Gwyneth zone and figure out what's going on there. Do you have any final words that you want to leave folks with?
Not really. Just thanks for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to showcase this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again for being
here.
Guys. Yeah, we're going to shift over to our next talk, and we're going to bring Joaquin on the stage. Awesome. Welcome, Joaquin. He's head of partnerships here at Taiko Labs. And, we heard from Terrence's talk just last week that community is very important to us. It's a project built from the community for the community. And I think that's a key piece to highlight, and a key piece that Joaquin has been working on, and bringing our community builders close to the community, the Taiko team, so that we have that handshake moment, and we're able to work closely with the projects that highlight themselves as highly valuable and long-term builders. And so for the folks that are thinking and building projects right now for the Grant Factory Hackathon, this is probably the guy that you're going to be talking to as soon as you deploy and your rocket ship's just starting to take off. Joaquin's going to be your main point of contact there to make sure you're well taken care of and connecting you to the other teams that we have in our ecosystem. But I don't want to steal any of Joaquin's thunder. I just wanted to build him up a little bit, and yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Joaquin to talk about partnerships and his perspective on how we approach those.
Awesome, Jorin. Thank you very much, and thanks a lot to DoraHacks too for making all this possible. I hope my talk is half as interesting as Danny's one. Certainly is going to be much less technical, I can tell you. A little intro about myself. As Jorin mentioned, I'm Joaquin. I'm head of partnerships at Taiko. I joined Taiko in July last year, so around almost a year and a half. Before that, I was doing business development for Polygon Labs, and before that, I used to work in the traditional financial industry. Several years doing strategic consultancy, and I work for almost 1 year for a bank. So definitely more boring stuff than what we are doing right now. So without further delay, I'm gonna share my screen. There it is. Please, Jorin, confirm
Looking good.
me. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, sure. So let's kick this off. The title of this talk is Partnerships with Taiko. All you need to know. I want to mention several things here, right? It's mainly focused on explaining as a developer what can you expect from Taiko team, but I also want to give like a sneak peek on what users can do right on Taiko, and how we are incentivizing users as well, because at the end of the day, if we don't have if we are not attractive for users, then the applications building on Taiko are not going to succeed. So I want to start by saying that and this is not a cliche, and I will explain why. Partnerships for Taiko is basically means finding success for both parts, and this is a virtuous cycle. Why? Because if we have more new successful projects, overall the chain is going to be more successful, right? If the chain is more successful overall, then more users are going to come to try our platforms. If a lot of users are around, then new successful projects will like to come. So it is actually on our best interest from a business and a strategic standpoint to make all our builders successful. So how do we support projects on Taiko? So there's many ways, and actually we keep reinventing this as time goes by. It's not set in stone, but just to summarize some ideas, I created these 4 buckets. First one is business and technical support. Second, grant support. Third, exposure to our community. And fourth one is trailblazers. And for trailblazers, I'm going to dedicate a whole individual section, because there's a lot to talk about around that. So let's start from the beginning, right? Business and technical support. Basically, first thing I want to do, even though Web3 is all about privacy and so on, I think it's quite important to put some faces to the people that you could speak with if you plan to build on Taiko. Right now, our partnerships team is built of 4 individuals. We're a small team. I like to say that a highly efficient small team. It's me, head of partnerships. PG takes care of gaming. Nikki of DeFi. Swarna is a solutions engineer, so takes care of everything technical. So this is like the initial team that you would be speaking to. But the support doesn't stop there, because the whole rest of the Taiko team works very closely with us to strategize and figure out how we can support better our partners. We have a social fi NFTs and entertainment person coming. We are hiring, by the way. So basically, yeah, we will tackle directly those verticals as well. But we will have a slide just to let you know which are our priorities. We provide support and strategy. We connect you to other partners. Sometimes synergies is the best way to scale a project. Connect to infrastructure providers. Try to give you discounts when we can. For example, if you need an audit, or if you need, I don't know, maybe subgraphs or other kind of infrastructure. We give business advice, of course, and definitely technical advice. That's Swarna, from deployment to high-level audits that we run ourselves, or solving any issue that you may be facing. So you can expect that from us if you partner with us. Grant support. So there's a lot, right, to talk about here, but I like to summarize this in a few items. All the grants that we do by default, and it's not set in stone, so we are highly flexible, but they are milestone based, which means we ask our partners to basically, as the word says, put some milestones, and we basically keep releasing the funds as the project hits the milestones. That's as simple as that. That way, we ensure that we basically don't give all the funds right away, and we work towards the same direction with an incentive to actually meet the goals that we both want the project to meet. There's no limit in amount, so as long as the milestones are aggressive or the funds are justified, we don't have set a limit of how much, or a cap of how much can we give. And there's no, the last one is, for me, is the most important one. There's no limit in times a project can apply. And what do I mean with this? I mean that we think long term, and we are happy to renew something that works. So if we start with a small grant, let's say 50K, because we are hard. Let me tell you something. We negotiate the grants, of course, and we are not easy in that sense. But you don't need to feel discouraged if you ask for, let's say, 100K, and we come back and say, let's start with 50K, because we are happy to provide 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 grants in the future if needed. But we want to see long-term commitment, and we want to go step by step. So there's no limit in the times you can apply. So you need further information, just visit our website. For the hackathon specific, you will get to Chambers platform. There is a hackathon track. I believe Jorin said in the beginning of these sessions that he will do a specific session of how to apply. So yeah. And for further information on application, I believe Nikki did a workshop specifically for that. So you can just revisit that. So exposure to our community. This is also quite important. We are lucky to have one of the strongest communities in Web3, both in X and Discord. And I think this is quite important, especially for new projects. Because when you're new, one of the things that you struggle, especially in the beginning, is to get some eyes on you, right? And getting some eyes on a new project, like easily or seamlessly, is quite powerful. And we will help you for that. So we have our ecosystem account, which is built on Taiko. This is how we usually start things. We usually post, new integrations on this account. You can go check it out on X. And we also have our main account. We don't usually do like partnerships announcements on our main account, but we sometimes do it based on certain conditions that, of course, we can discuss, privately as partners. So yes, we do integration announcements and new feature announcements there. And on Discord, we have over 1 million community members. We have an ecosystem channel announcements. where we basically announce all the new features, all the new integrations. And we also have I think it's every 2 weeks, but I'm not entirely sure, what we call the Tea with Taiko, which is basically a half an hour session with our community where we invite partners to basically hang around with our community and present their projects. And the last one, this is the biggest one. This is Taiko Trailblazers. I'm gonna divide it into different sections, and I'll try to be as I'll try this to be as self-explanatory as possible. But I believe there will be some questions around this. But let's go. Trailblazers, like TLDR, is an incentives program. It's intended both for applications and for users. Okay. So Trailblazers run in seasons. Every season is 3 months. The users compete against each other, and the dApps compete against each other, and they can access different prize pools, different rewards. Okay. In between the season, I will deep dive on all this, but this is like TLDR. In between the season, there are specific events, campaigns, competitions, where especially applications, can compete for additional jackpots. And for users, there's other opportunities to basically get more points doing less. Let's put it that way. I will deep dive on that. Trailblazers started 4 months ago. It started on June this year, 4 or 5 months ago, and it's expected to run for at least 2 years, but potentially more. So we will have a lot of Trailblazers moving forward. So let's start with the user incentives, and I think this is quite relevant. Even though this talk is more intended for developers, I think it's quite important for users to for developers to understand why users will potentially come to Taiko and use their applications, right? So basically, all the users, when using the applications built on Taiko, they gather points, they gather experience points. And basically, they compete in 2 rankings throughout the whole season. There is one ranking that is the general users ranking. This basically lasts for 3 months, the whole season, basically. And the users gather points every time they do a transaction. And basically, we take into account the gas they spent. But basically, the transaction count is the important metric here. And they also gather points based on the volume of their transactions. So users are incentivized to basically go and use the applications, and they are also incentivized to put some money there. Let's put it that way, in order to get higher volume transactions and more points. That's the general users ranking. Then we just created a second ranking for users, which is Liquidity Royale. We actually launched this last week. And this is basically a competition for TVL. There's, I'm not going to deep dive too much on this because we just released a blog post that explains it perfectly. But basically, we have set 1 million tokens, Taiko tokens, apart for this. And those are going to go for the top 100 liquidity providers. It's not as simple as that. There is a point system, and there's some details that I encourage you to check if you want to participate on this. But the most important part that I want to mention here is that if you think about it, this naturally brings activity to Taiko's dApps, regardless of the vertical your app belongs to. If you are DeFi, maybe the DeFi applications don't basically engage into a lot of transactions, right? But you get the TVL competition, so you can actually get people to deposit funds. Same happens or the opposite happens for games. Games are not pretty much about TVL, but people transacting on there and playing. Users are incentivized to do that because of the general users ranking. And if we go to the dApp side, so basically when the users use the application built on Taiko, the apps per se gather also points, right? So there's also a competition for the apps where they also acquire points, and basically to gather those points, users need to be there. Basically, the metrics that we are targeting right now, and this is a moving target because we are fine tuning, how to make it better and most efficient for us and for apps, make it easier for everyone. But right now we are targeting the unique users, the gas usage, the number of transactions, and TVL as main metrics. But again, this is a moving target. Applications compete in 2+ rankings throughout the whole season. So there's one ranking, which is the general dApps ranking. As the name says, it's general. So any application that is built on Taiko and whitelisted for Trailblazers can compete regardless of the vertical. So here, DeFi competes against social, competes against gaming, competes against AI, everyone. Basically, the duration is the whole season, so 3 months. The season 1 rewards was 1 million for this competition. So the top application got 160K Taiko tokens, which is more, of course, in dollars. And the average reward for applications were like 35K. I must say that in this season 2, we have cut in half those rewards. We expect that of course, that the token performs, and at the end of the day, the dollar value can be juicy, but you never know, right? We don't have control over that. That's the general dApps ranking. Then we have the competitions. The competitions is basically we do every month. We do specific competitions. So we do 3 competitions per season, and we put a jackpot on top of that competition. So far, we've had 1 bridge competition, 1 DeFi competition, 2 gaming competitions, and now we are running what we call the Trailblazers competition, which is gaming plus social plus AI applications. If you want to see, current Trailblazers rewards, basically we are going to reward the top 5, 140K Taiko tokens. That's the prize pool, and you can see in the screen how much each application gets. So it's actually quite rewarding, let's put it that way, because every month you can access this jackpot, and then also at the end of the season you can access the general dApps ranking jackpot. We usually encourage applications to bring those fans back to the community in any way that you can imagine, but we don't make it mandatory. Let's put it that way. One last thing I want to mention, and this is also quite interesting, the last part of this for especially for new apps, we make specific boosts for specific apps. Like, for example, let's say you're a new application, you want to get eyes on you. We, of course, would do all this. We would present you to our community, but we can also use Trailblazers to get some extra eyes on you. How? We basically do multipliers. So when users transact in your application, they will get, let's say, double or triple the points that they would get otherwise. So we basically drive and direct our users towards specific applications. This is quite useful for new apps. I also want to share some metrics, right, on Trailblazers. Season 1, the prize pool were 12 million Taiko tokens. 10 million were for users, 2 million were for apps. Even though it seems that decompensated, it actually isn't, because there's like you can see the unique active wallets. It's like almost 1 million users, but there's less than 100 apps. So it's actually it's quite balanced or decompensated for apps. Basically, that's for season 1. Season 2, we have, as I said before, we have cut in half the prize pool. We need to make it sustainable over time. The final distribution is to be decided. We never commit at the beginning because, again, we constantly iterate and try to make it fair, seen, and listening to community, listening to apps, and listening to our metrics, of course, which is at the end of the day what we all want to crack. If we crack our metrics, if we are all successful, then we will make Taiko successful overall, and we will all win, right? Even the community. So far, we have 700K unique active wallets. I must say that we will conduct stable analysis at the end. We did it also for the season 1, and we cut that number by 60%. We will do it again on season 2. For joining as an application, you just need to deploy on Taiko and complete a simple whitelist that is going to take you 2 minutes. We have a link on the Trailblazers webpage. One extra slide I wanna, and I think this is quite important. This is about our priorities, especially for hackathon participants. I want to say that you shouldn't think that only the ones that are listed here are the ones that we will look into. We will look into literally everything, and also I want to mention that if you don't see the missing tag, it doesn't mean that we don't want applications from that vertical. Okay, so starting with gaming, it is a top priority for us. We believe in Web3 gaming. We believe it will be a big gateway for new users, so we are all over it. DeFi is kind of like the building blocks for everything else, so it's for us as well. Social fi, memes, social networks, utility, NFTs. This is a top priority. I can tell you that we are not doing very great here yet. As I showed you in the beginning, we don't have a specific BD for this. That's one of the reasons why we haven't, focused so much, and we don't have, let's say, flagship projects in this vertical. So I would say we are missing some heroes on the social fi, memes, social network, utility, NFTs verticals. So I leave it there. Real world assets, tokenization, real world use cases. We are, don't get me wrong, this is a mid priority. Why it is a mid priority? Because we are very metrics focused, and we like to see basically that the projects that we onboard give us transactions, give us volume, because this is what fits a chain. But we are very bullish in the future of these verticals. So it's a mid priority in the short term, but we are not saying that we don't want this on Taiko. We actually think Taiko is, because of its technical properties, it's quite a suitable home for this kind of use cases. And of course, surprises, right? This is a top priority. We are a general purpose blockchain. This industry is quite unpredictable, so we literally welcome any possible use case. We want to be surprised, and we want you guys to to push the boundaries of what has been invented and actually come up with with the next killer app. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. Thank you. Open to questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joaquin. Yeah, I'm excited as we're coming towards the end of the hackathon to see all the projects that are coming up, and to get them plugged into this amazing pipeline that you've built. And I think you did a great job of laying it all out, like the types of projects that we're focusing on, but also are open to being surprised. And getting those people connected with our massive community, getting people these projects connected into the Trailblazer program. I think we have a good infrastructure set up to support these new projects, and it's all about the people watching right now to build those projects and get connected, because we're still not even a half a year old, and we're already seeing some great growth, and we're only expecting some more growth there. So now's a great time to take advantage of this blue ocean and get those projects submitted and connected in. I'm not seeing any questions here from the audience. So maybe a question for me is, I think you did touch on it at the end, but maybe like on a personal note, like what kind of project would you love to see, and maybe what advice would you give people that are submitting grants to help have their grants stand out amongst the crowd?
That's a very good question. I would say like I really don't want to discourage anyone by my answer. Okay, I'm not saying that if you don't go for what I'm gonna say right now, it means you are not going to win, because that's not the case. Okay, but I would say, based on our current ecosystem, two categories. Surprise us like 100%. It's really hard for us to, we are extremely busy with the everyday tasks, and it's really hard for us to think out of the box of what is the next killer app. And that's why we create this kind of hackathons. We really want you guys that we really want to see the application say, oh my god, I could have never think of thought of something like this. So surprises is definitely a good category, but I have to say that this one we are not doing great so far. We haven't been focusing a lot on social memes. I would say that we have some equivalents to Pump That Fun on Taiko. Meme Launchpad, meme creation token Smith. But memes are much more than just creating it. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert on memes, but I think it's quite a good tool for community creation. Same happens for SocialFi. So everything around social networks on Web3 or consumer applications. I really think that with gaming, those are the use cases that are gonna crack the formula for mass adoption. So I'm really bullish on, and I really think it makes sense, right? Reward content creators directly, not going through a centralized platform. That's how I think of SocialFi applications, connecting creators with their fans in a more direct way. That's how I envision Web3 will add value to the world in the SocialFi elements moving forward. So I would say those two are the ones that I'm most looking forward to. But again, like literally any use case will look into detail, and I don't want to discourage others.
Yeah, that makes sense, of course. Yeah, I think that covers all the questions. So yeah, we're gonna start to wrap up this session. It's a little bittersweet, this being the last session before the bonus session, but that is the last comment that I wanted to leave. Is there was a very early question from wants to comment about the timeline for feedback on submission. And yeah, basically the whole grant process coming up now. So yeah, this hackathon is a little bit different from other hackathons that you might be used to, where you just submit your build on the DoraHacks platform. That is step one. So definitely make sure you go on there, create your account, submit your builds, and they will be reviewed. But in conjunction with that submission, you're going to have to also submit a grant proposal. And in order to do that, we have a separate platform that you'll need to go to called Charmverse. And there will be a specific track for you to submit these projects in, and there'll be a template there for you. Essentially, you just have to fill out the template. It's probably questions you can imagine, and some of the information we've already requested on DoraHacks will be able to be transferred over. Things like, what is the problem that you're solving, and how does your solution, how does your project uniquely address that problem and provide a solution. Things that I've mentioned over and over again on what your goals are moving down the line, 2, 4, 6 months down the line. What are the metrics that you're aiming to achieve so that we can evaluate what your success is? So if you're hitting X milestone, that's going to unlock your Y reward for that milestone. Things like that from a very high level is what you'll be putting into that grant proposal. But again, we're going to do one more workshop where we go step by step walking through that. And so, yeah, I would encourage you guys to start writing that out already. Start thinking about it in the very least, so that you're ready to submit it. And then in the next couple weeks, we're going to have this submission and feedback loop. So once we have that portal open for you guys, and you can start to submit your grants, we'll be able to put comments on there. We'll be able to have a back and forth with you about what we think you need to maybe polish up, or maybe request some changes, that sort of thing. And that's going to go back and forth right up until the submission deadline, which is November 17th, I believe, is the official end deadline. And then we're going to get into judging. So I think that answers all of the points of that question. If not, definitely come to that workshop that we have for the grants submission process, and we'll make sure you get fully covered with all of that information. With all that being said, I want to thank Joaquin and Danny again for being here and giving us great presentations, and again for Jan from the DoraHacks team for being here to support us. And just a last comment to folks that are out there, please make your way over to our Discord. And if you have any further questions that we didn't answer here, we'll be able to catch you there and help you out there. And I'll pass it off back to Jan to close this out.
Okay, so thanks a lot for these 2 incredible workshops. As you just mentioned, there's like a little less than 3 weeks left. So I'm very curious about all the submissions. If anyone needs some support, just let us know. And looking forward to like the next workshop and the final workshop. So thanks for today, and see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.